This will be an interesting one. This is called lack of world perspective because of our education system. Most Americans really couldn't tell you which direction China is if they were standing out on a street corner and said, which way is China? A lot of people think China is a threat. China is not a threat. China produces incredible amount of all of our products, the components. Without China, we wouldn't have all these computers and all this other stuff that we have. But listen to this story about how people really don't understand what's going on when it comes to geopolitics, and they get put in little camps. You know, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, oh, I'm American, and China's a threat, and Russia's a threat, and all that stuff. It's all lack of education, lack of communication.
But the point is, the United States is out. And, you know, Iran, yeah, I'm sure Iran's using that from a negotiating standpoint.
When China decides not to sell rare earth minerals, it means that they're perceiving what's going on.
Well, again, they're not idiots. You know, the bias, the prejudice in the United States against China, and I'm not trying to pretend that China is some benign global presence, but when you put the United States and China side by side, or compare the last 76 years since 1950. In 1950, the Chinese literacy rate was 27%. In other words, almost 3/4 of the people in China didn't read or were not functionally literate. The United States at the time, 97% literacy. Today, 76 years later, the Chinese literacy rate is about 98%. The United States functional literacy rate is 79%. And of that total, estimated 50% of those considered literate read at the 6th grade level or lower. Now, this is an alarming statistic, because what it indicates is that the ability of, you know, we're raising a generation of Americans incapable of critical thinking, and they read at such a simplistic level they can't handle comprehend complicated concepts. And
so that's a good one, isn't it? It's true. So I was born in 1952. So I would have been in like third or fourth grade. My mom and dad, they bought me a radio for my headboard, which is right behind your bed. You have a headboard with two little sliding doors. And anyways, we were having a conversation one day, and it was about China. You know, China's dangerous. They're a threat to the United States. My dad was saying this at the dinner table. And I looked at him and I started laughing. I said, "What do you mean? Why do we buy stuff from China?" He goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, Coca-Cola's sold in China." And I said, so I went downstairs and I grabbed my radio. On the back of the radio says "Made in China." I brought it upstairs and set it on the table. I said, "See, it's made in China." And it had, you know, a tube radio, and that was all made in China. And he just kind of looked at me, and he was in the war, and he was conditioned that there are all these threats out there. So we've been programmed by the bankers, yes, the ones that want to have wars, the ones that want to make synthetic drugs for the pharmaceutical industry. That whole thing was taken over by the bankers. You can call it the Rothschilds, you know, this banking system, the Warburgs, the Kuhns, the Loebs, all these basically Zios that were controlling America. And Smedley Butler wrote that book in 1935 called War's a Racket. He was just telling you right there in that book in 1935, hey, they got a taste of really making a lot of money because we could mass produce things from World War I, and we made a lot of money making these tanks and everything else. And then we started making big cars and manufacturing, and that's how we started off. But we always had to have a threat, because you could make more money with a threat out there than you could just producing stuff. Because you'd have to go to Congress and say, well, we need $100 million for this, we need $1 billion for this, we need $2 billion for this. We've got threats all around the world. And this is where we are, folks. We're living in a world where we're still, in America, dumber than a box full of rocks when it comes to geopolitics, and China's not the threat. Unfortunately, we, the people in the United States, aren't a threat, but our system of business and the system of the military-industrial complex is the biggest threat to peace on Earth. So we have an opportunity right now, with everything that's happening in the United States, when the zebras are taking over the United States, and Congress has showed who they truly are, to change our world. But it's up to you. It's up to you. It's up to you to make a decision. Are you tired of this game? Are you tired of living where you can't even make a livable wage? Are you tired of all of the drama in life and you just like to live it to your fullest potential? Well, that's what the Conscious Hour is about. It's about bringing us together, the collective consciousness, and rolling out an implementation plan that breaks this old cycle. We can stay in 2.0. That would be, we're in 1 now, go to 2.0, we've merged into it already, or we can go to 3.0. 3.0, we learn from the mistakes, we create a global economy, and we don't have this border issue and all these extra, things you have to do. If you're going to travel here, you need a visa and you need all this stuff. No, we're going to open up all the borders. And we're going to create a global economy where every country has eliminated poverty. And just think, for those people that own the goods and services on this planet right now, all the big corporations, they're going to make even more money. They're going to have so much more money, still won't know how to get rid of it all. And somebody says, what do you mean get rid of it all? There's so much money in the world that you could never spend it. Think of Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum and Larry Silverstein and all these people with all this billions and billions and billions of dollars, and they keep making more money on the stock market, making more and more and more. When are you going to spend it? So we're in this game of monopoly on steroids that's killing the world, and we need to pull the plug on it and go into this new world order. It's called Reboot 3.0. This is the Conscious Hour, folks. If you want to know what it is, just reach out. It's already finished. Implementation plan, the whole thing. Thanks for tuning into the Conscious Hour. Remember, it's time for all of us to come together.